Welcome to Creating Digital Interactive Notebooks presented by UT Austin Gear Up, PD. So, interactive notebooks, this is something that many of you might have been using for years. They're traditionally a composition notebook used in the classroom to help students organize their notes and engage with different manipulatives such as card sorts, vocabulary, and other learning to really invite students into solidifying their understanding. They are not workbooks and they are not scrapbooks, although I will admit I have seen some very, very beautiful looking interactive notebooks as I've gone to visit different classrooms. So as we shift into our new normal, you might have change gears into a digital interactive notebook. And it might have been something you tried, and then when you went back to the classroom, you switched back to something a little more tangible. Now, I want to talk to you today about making a shift. So I'm going to be making the case for using digital interactive notebooks. So why switch? There are many different reasons why you should switch, but here are just a few. They can get extremely messy and become unarranged stacks. I cannot tell you how many times I have been in classrooms and I have heard students say, I left it at home, or it's not in the stack. And they're, you know, going through all these different stacks for different class periods trying to find their class notebook. They get super thick and can take up lots of space. Probably the biggest one for me is that they are time consuming. You don't have time to spare. It takes time to cut, it takes time to color, it takes time to glue it on the paper just right, because we all can think of that student who has to cut it perfectly, who has to glue it on the paper exactly a certain way. And I get it because this is their notebook, they're taking pride in it, and that's great. But it takes time to pass out all the papers, to go over the directions, to make sure that each student is doing it right. And the list goes on of different ways that tangible interactive notebooks just consume time. Lost items. I can't find it. So I mentioned the maybe losing it at home, leaving it behind in another class, pages that fall out, and then your student is missing something when you say, look back in your notebook at page 45, and they're looking, they're like, I don't have page 45, or Miss, that paper fell out, I don't have it in here. And so then the point of using these interactive notebooks kind of gets lost because the items have gotten lost. The resources that we need our students to look back at, those notes have gotten lost. Resources, tangible interactive notebooks take a lot of resources. It takes time you don't have, money you may or may not have, and paper. How many of you can think of a time when you ran out of paper, you were running around trying to ask colleagues for paper? I don't know about you, but many of the campuses I've been at, paper is one of the biggest commodities. I see teachers hoarding it, which is fine, like there's no tomorrow, because it is a resource that they need. And on some campuses, it is a limited resource. And physical interactive notebooks require a lot of resources. Tape, glue. Just the other day, I was in a classroom and someone said, hey, we're needing some tape and some glue for our notebooks. And so if you have faced any of these struggles and you're like, I still want to do this, but I don't know how to make the switch, I'm going to share that with you. But the biggest concern for me is that oftentimes tangible interactive notebooks stay at DOK level 1. It stays here where students are recalling information, where they are engaging in rote memorization, where they are focusing solely on procedures and facts, and they are not moving further to strategic thinking level 2, level 3, or even level 4 in Webb's depth of knowledge. And we want to get them there, but it can be hard when we are tied to something that keeps them, that really was kind of built to keep them at level 1. So it's great for level 1, don't get me wrong, but we want to take students a step further. And that's where digital interactive notebooks come in, is an online version of interactive notebooks that can be created, shared out, and used in a much more efficient manner. So two big whys: time saver. No more searching for foldables to put in there, no more searching for something new, because a lot of you over the past several years have had new teaks. Things have had to change because we're shifting into this era where students are coming to us with gaps in the INBs that might have worked before, the resources that we had for those no longer work. So no more searching for you, no more searching from your students as they're looking through the pile trying to find their notebook. No more printing, waiting at the printer, running out of paper, because it's all digital. No more hauling piles of notebooks home so you can grade. Why? Because it's all online and it makes it a little easier to sift through. My big number two, organization. No more lost pages. No more things falling out of the notebooks. No more pages being ripped out and getting lost. No more lost notebooks. You can make them look a little more uniform when you push them out to students, and colorful or not colorful. And there's just so much more that you can do with the organization in the digital ones, because if it's in there, you can still move it around, versus a tangible notebook. It's a little hard to rearrange if you decide you want to add something in or take something out. So real quick, I want to share what digital interactive notebooks are and what they are not. So it is a tool that allows students to interact with, reflect on, fill out, all digitally. So this is a resource that is predominantly digital, and I'll share some ways momentarily that you can kind of incorporate maybe hands-on learning that you're doing into the digital interactive notebook. But what it is not just a slideshow with links. It is not just a slideshow with pictures. It is not just a slideshow that looks like a digital worksheet. This is not just fill in the blank and drag and drop. There is more to it. And we're going to take a look at how you can incorporate some of those things, right? Some of that level one that we know our students do need to move up to level two, level three, level four. So how can you use digital interactive notebooks? And this is probably one of my favorite things, because it does not just have to be an interactive notebook. So it can be an interactive notebook so students can interact with the learning, use it as a study guide, go back and look at notes. But it can also be used as a digital portfolio, which is fantastic for those of you who are CTE teachers and are needing a way for students to, needing a place for students to capture all the work that they're doing in your classes, for automotive, for cosmetology, for even our computer science classes where they're coding, or uh, you know any of those things, a digital portfolio to place their work and talk about what is happening in those pictures, talk about how their work has progressed throughout the school year, throughout the semester, throughout a particular unit where they're focusing on a skill. And it can also be a single spot for assignments. So a digital notebook, I've seen some that span across a unit. I've seen digital notebooks that go day by day. Either way is okay. There's no right or wrong way to do it. And so the cool thing is it's flexible. You're able to use it how you want, which takes me into differentiation. So you might say, I don't know if this is going to work for me. I have a lot of special populations in my class. I have a lot of emergent bilingual students. I have a lot of students with 504 plans. I have a lot of students with accommodations. How am I supposed to support them? Or you might say, I have one pre-AP class with GT students in it, and I don't know if this is going to work for me. The great thing about digital notebooks is it makes it so easy to differentiate. For our emergent bilingual learners, we could put visual aids in there, use it for vocabulary building, incorporate videos that maybe we're not sharing out with other students, include sentence stems to support them. For some of our accelerated students, our GT or pre-AP, we can create this to be something where they can work at their own pace, because we can all think of students who say, I'm bored, or they finish up early, and we don't want to give them more because that feels like a punishment. But when they get to the point where they say, I'm done, now what? We don't want to let them just, frolic and be free. We want to push them in their thinking. So this is a perfect place to put extension questions to deepen their thinking, to deepen their understanding, to have them think deeper without doing more, without it feeling tedious and time consuming for them, because that's when our kids start to shut down. So digital interactive notebooks are a great way to differentiate for our students. So what we're going to do right now, I'll be sharing some considerations after this demo, but I'm going to move into a quick little demo of how to set up a digital interactive notebook. This is going to be super basic. If you're looking for something more in depth, I am going to be sharing that with you, but I know many of you are already familiar with this. So this is more so for those of you who just need a quick refresher or are looking for something new. All right, so let's take a look at how we can set up our digital interactive notebooks. So when you come into Google Slides, what you're going to do is start with something new. You can leave it in this layout. It is really a personal preference, or you can change it to look more like a notebook itself. So that vertical layout, what you do is go to File, Page Setup, and you're going to go to Custom and change it to that 8.5 by 11 inches. So again, personal preference, I'm going to leave it like this. So from here, you can edit it in this layout. However, when you are editing it from the actual slide deck itself, what happens is students are able, when you share this out with students, they're able to move things around. And I cannot tell you how many times I've been in classrooms and heard, Miss, I deleted it. Sir, I deleted it. I can't find it. I can't bring it back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how you can, one way that you can make it to where there are certain things that stay, students can't move around, and other things that students can move around. So what we're going to do is go to slide, edit theme, and in the edit theme, you'll see that there are already some layouts here. There are a lot that I don't need, so I'm just going to delete them, delete all these ones I don't want, I don't like. Okay, now this one is kind of my master one. What you can do if you would like to click on it, and I kind of want this to be my go-to. So I'm changing the font, and right here, I don't want to change these one by one. So I'm just going to select the full thing and hit this plus arrow. And I feel like that's pretty good. All right, so you can see that now when I look at this one right here, it has edited that. Now I want to start by creating you can leave this here if you want. We'll get to that in a second, but I want to create my notebook cover. So I'm going to go to Google. I found a notebook cover that I liked. I just typed in notebook cover. I'm going to right click, copy image. I don't need to save, and I'm going to come back and paste it. And because it has these things on the side, I'm actually going to crop this just real quick. And you can create your own notebook cover. You can use a composition one. You can do whatever your heart desires. You can even create several different templates if you want students to be able to kind of choose what they want. Now, from here, I've seen people do several different things. Some people prefer a table of contents, in which case you can just make this composition notebook the full page. However, some people prefer tabs, and you can put the tabs on the side or the top. I'm actually going to put my tabs on the top, and you can do that by going to Insert, Shape. And the shapes, they have these different little tabs. I prefer this one right here. And so creating the size that you want, I'm actually going to come over here and create those real quick. So think about how many tabs you need, and you can kind of go from there. And so once you get your tabs set up, you can leave them all the same color. You can change the color. Again, it really is based on personal preference. And if you have something like this where it's either too long or too short, what you could do is select all of these, drag it, and it will adjust them nicely for you. So that is just kind of a little tip trick that you can use for that. So from here, I'm going to insert text box, and I'm going to put my label. So right now, I'm just going to put label 1, and you can edit the text for this. I'm going to make this bold and want it to be a little bigger. You can change the font if you'd like. Normal, and I'm going to bold that one. And so now I kind of have that, and I'm going to just copy and paste. and then I'll edit my labels from there. So you'll notice that I left my tabs right now all the same color. Again, this is really just based on personal preference. So if you wanted to, you could go back to the tabs and change the colors over here, pink. And if you are going to change the tabs, the colors, I would highly recommend doing that before you do the text, just because it's a little easier. I already clicked that one. And so again, it's really just about, at this point, personal preference. Okay, so now I have my labels done. So from here, what I want to do is I want to think about how I want the layout of the notebook itself to look. Some people do it by units. I would recommend doing it by units. Some people do it by day. If you want to do it by day, you are more than welcome to. It is, again, personal preference. So I'm going to show you once I have this set up. Now what? What do I do from here? So if you right click, you can hit new layout, and now I have something new to work with. I don't need this here right now, so I'm going to delete that. And what I want is just notebook paper. So I'm going to come over here, get myself some notebook paper. I'm going to right click, copy image, and I'm going to paste it. Oops. And you know what? I don't like that one. So I'm going to do something else. Let's try, don't like that one either. And so find something that you like. Ooh, that's interesting. So find something that you like that's going to work for you. None of those are working for me right now, but I think I like this one. So I'm going to right click, copy image. Again, we don't need to save. And then I'm just going to do Control V to paste it in. There we go. So again, from here, you can make it the whole page if you want. Some people do like having the tabs up top. If you do want to have the tabs up top, you can just lower the paper, come back to, you can lower the paper and select the tabs, Control C to copy, Control V to paste. Now, I would not do that until you do this, until you link these, but we're not at that point yet. So just bear with me for a moment so we can kind of work through that. So now I have this blank page that I have here, and I want another one because I want one of these to be a title page and another one to be a blank page that students can enter notes on, that I can put in for students as we go along. So I'm going to pause right here real quick. What we've worked through is putting together our cover page, starting to put our labels in, and we are about to go in. How do I set up my slide deck from here so that way I can come back and link these? So let's take a look at that. All right, so what I decided to do here is to insert a text box, and I put my unit name, linear functions, on my cover. You can see that I updated my labels up here to be essentially the table of contents, the main pages that students are going to be navigating to. So I have vocab, the topic of slope, writing linear equations, putting it all together, and I'm done. Now what? Which is a perfect place to house additional things that students can refer to when they have finished an assignment, if they need to dig a little deeper. You can also put a tab at the end that has sentence stems. I might put, so for math, I might put the problem solving model. I might put the scientific process, inquiry process. I might put reference sheets and extra materials. So you can play around with the tabs to put what you want. Again, you don't have to put them up here. If you think, oh, you know what, it would be better to put it vertically, you are more than welcome to do that as well. So what I went ahead and did is I added all my kind of key pages, some sample key pages from here. And keep in mind that when I do this, it is going to be part of the master slides that that students can look at. So I did add at the very end just a basic one. I'm going to delete this, where they can add their own title. So if I wanted students to be able to add their own title, what I did is I came over here, not to insert text box, because if I insert a text box, students won't be able to edit that. I came over here to insert text placeholder, and I'm adding a title, and I want it to match all my other ones. So I'm going to change it to this font, and I had it a size 60. I want it to be centered. So now I'm going to exit out of this, the editor, and I can see, okay, I'm back in my main thing. So now I can see that when I go to slide, new slide, this is my default one. But if I come up here to the little plus arrow and the drop down next to it, you see that I have my main ones, but I also have this one that says click to add title, and then students can add their own. All right, so let's take a look. Now that I've inserted some of these over here, I can go back to the slide editor, the edit theme, to actually link these. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the word, and you can see I already have this one linked to slide 2. I have this one already linked. And what I'm going to do now, let me show you how you link that. So when you click on the text, you can either hit Control K or you can right click and hit link. We want to link it to slides in the presentation, and I want it to my all together slide. And ooh, you know what? I need to add my all together slide first. I'm going to come back here real quick and add my all together slide, and I'll actually also add my I'm done now what slide. Okay, so now I can go back into my edit theme, slide editor, come back to this, and I'm going to, there we go, all together. And I want it to go to, I come over here and I see that all together is slide 7. And I come over here, I'm done now what? Control K or right click and link, and I'm done now what is slide 8. Okay, so I have those linked. Now I decided I did not want to put the tabs up top. What I'm going to do instead is use this little home icon right here. And all I search for is home button PNG transparent, because that will allow me to get rid of the background. If I right click again, copy image, and I can paste it in over here. And now when I select this, when I right click, you'll notice that link doesn't come up. But if I select it and I hit Control K, that allows me to link. So I do want to link it to the slides in the presentation, and I want it to be the first slide. And so I'm going to put this on all of the pages because, again, I personally did not want the tabs, but I do want them to easily be able to access the tabs if they want. And I am going to come back over here and also put it on this slide, and I forgot to bold it. There we go. So now I have copy V, and I don't want this to have anything on it. I just want it to be a basic one. So now you can see when I click on it, it's still linked on all of the pages. And I know because it kind of pops up down here at the bottom. So when I come over here, I can't click on anything right now. It won't jump anywhere. And the cool thing is right now they can't move it. So they can't say, oh no, miss, I deleted this. So if you have something important to put in, do it now. So that way they have that in there. But when I hit slideshow, if I click on that, it takes me back. When I hit on vocab, it goes to vocab. When I hit on writing equations, it goes here. I'm done. Now what? And so now we see that when I'm in the actual slide presentation, it does work. So what about adding places for students to type or to drag and drop or to use manipulatives? You can do that one of two ways. If you want it to be pieces that students can actually move themselves, you can do it directly from this. You don't have to go into the edit theme. You can do it from this screen right here. So you can add a text box. Note though that when you put a text box from this screen, it looks like nothing is showing up. You might have to change the fill color to be something kind of light so that students know, okay, I should be typing in right here. Otherwise, it's going to look like there's nothing there. So that's something to keep in mind. The other thing you could do is you could go back to your edit theme, slide edit theme. And if you wanted them to be able to type in their vocabulary terms, we're not going to insert the text box because remember, they can't move it or type into it from here. What we're going to do instead is we're going to insert a placeholder. So I chose body text placeholder. I'm going to come over here, put that in, and now I see, okay, they have somewhere where they can take their notes. So if you want to put that on all the pages, you can. It is really up to you. But I kind of like this one because then when I come back over here, it actually says click to add text, and then they can see, okay, this is where I'm adding my text. So those are two different ways that you can do it. It really just depends on your personal preference. I like that it says click to add text. So you might be wondering, okay, but what happens if I add extra pages? Is it still going to hop to where it needs to go? So let's take a look. This is my first slide in writing equations. And I'm going to add just a blank notebook paper slide. I'm going to add two. And I'm going to do that under slope, which would push down the slide number that it originally was. So let's take a look. Remember, I can't do it from here. I do have to go to slideshow. So when I'm in slideshow, when I click on slope, it still goes to slope from 2 points, exactly where I needed it to go. When I go to, and let me click the hope button, when I go to writing equations, it still goes to writing equations from 2 points, which was the first one that I had. So it is still going exactly where I need it to go, even though I've added pages, because it's not necessarily linked to the slide number itself. It's linked to that specific slide. Okay, so you have your notebook, the basics of your notebook set up. From here, you can do a couple of things. This can be solely for notes. It's up to you. This can be an interactive notebook, like it's truly meant to be, where it has notes and it has some activities. So let's take a look at some activities you can do that you can incorporate in here. So this is a notebook that's part of a blog post from Ditch That Textbook. I have linked it in your note-taking guide because it has some great ideas in here of what you could do. So I put some examples together in in this original template. It's blank for you to kind of edit as you want, but I wanted to show you what this could look like in different subject areas. So for a CTE computer science course, as students are learning a new program, you could have them label an image. So label the different parts of the Microsoft Word toolbar below. Not sure how to begin. Erase the text in the text box and replace it with the vocabulary terms. So this is an opportunity for you to either, I'm just text editor. I'm just making things up. So this is an opportunity for you to either allow students to fill it in themselves, or you can fill these in for them and kind of take this part right here off. So it really is up to you. I probably would have the vocabulary terms already in there just for the sake of time. And the point of this activity and assignment is really to make sure that they know where each of these different each of these different items are something to keep in mind. Also something to keep in mind if you need to, what the arrows need to look like, if you need to change them, if you need to change the direction of them or anything like that. So something to be mindful of, and then that could be it. Another example, caption this. So use the text bubbles to add dialogue to this image based on today's lesson. Not sure where to start? Click on a speech thought bubble and drag the yellow dot to move the tail of the bubble around. And so then from here, they can insert, they can move these over here, and they might have to, bring it forward. I'm trying to see order, bring forward, bring to the front. There we go. And so then they would insert a text box and type. So another idea that that you could implement in your class. Keep in mind as you are doing these, you'll notice that for this one, I had to bring it to the front. You might already want to have that set. So make sure that as you are pushing these out to students before you push them out, that you are thinking about some of the barriers that they might face. So in this particular one, it was bringing the thought bubbles to the front of the image, and maybe having some pre-made text boxes that they could drag as well. So just something to keep in mind, because the point of this is to be interactive. It's not to necessarily, the technology shouldn't be the thing that they're struggling with. If they're struggling with something, it should be the content itself, and maybe thinking of an appropriate caption. So that's another example of an activity that you could put into your digital interactive notebook. Another one is movable vocabulary. So here is a math example. You'll notice that these categories are movable. If you don't want them to be changeable, remember we go to slide, edit theme, and edit it from there to keep them locked in place. However, you'll notice that on this one, she doesn't have those, she doesn't have these there. These are all images that were made as background. So that's another way to make some of these components where you can't move them. And I will link how you can, instead of going to the slide editor via theme, how you can set images as backgrounds to make it locked in. So I will share a video of that in your note-taking guide. So then what they could do is drag and drop. And this will give you an idea of their understanding of the vocabulary terms and what they refer to, what they mean. You could go a step further and have them give an example of this. You could even have them create the categories themselves. So on this one, I created the categories, but another option is to have them create the categories. And that's bumping up the thinking. A digital diorama map. So for this one, I edited it to be something for ELAR, or it could even be for a social studies class. Use the icons at the left, shapes, lines, text, images, to create a digital diorama of a scene from last night's reading. Be sure to add as much detail to show what you've learned and what happened there. And the original creator of this particular template just asked that we leave this down here because we do want to cite and give credit to the creator of these icons. So for this one, it's a little comic book strip, and I did this for specifically a health class. If you are looking at taking courses to become an EMT, I put bedside manners. So they could use the frames, resize them, and more. So you see that the directions are over here to create a comic strip. They can use the webcam to insert pictures taken of themselves, or they can actually create a comic strip here if you have other resources available to you. And then they can move the text boxes around. And you'll notice that on this one, these are already moved to the front. Remember last time we had to right click, go to order, bring to front, and these already have the text boxes in them. So something to be mindful of. I had mentioned thinking about how you could use this maybe as a digital portfolio. So this would be a great example, something super easy that you could use, a template that you could use for a portfolio. So they're going to insert the image and then use these text boxes to add description of what's happening in the image. They can use these little icons over here to label specific parts of what's going on. So this one could be used the way that I saw it, as a portfolio, or if you wanted them to take a picture of something and then label it using these, they could do that as well. So some additional considerations of how you can make the digital notebook interactive. On this one, I put John, this is using the coordinate plane. This is graphing linear equations. So John was in charge of cake and goodie bags for his sister's birthday party. The cake costs $50 and each goodie bag costs $7 each. Write a linear equation to represent this situation and use the function to create a graph. So over here, I have a few more details. Use the dots on the left side of this page to plot on the coordinate plane. And so what I would have them do is click and drag, and you might have additional instructions such as label the graph with your increments, use the line tool to, to create a line. So think about how you could use that one. A Likert scale. This is a great one just to kind of get feedback. So the way I thought about this in the context of this one is a CTE class, maybe a law enforcement class, maybe something about business laws. General elections are just around the corner. Some people in the state of Texas are concerned about the lack of gun safety laws that are in place and are wanting more accountability from their elected officials. What are your thoughts about this issue? So there's directions for them to take this and kind of put the dot where they think they could say, sad because, this makes me feel uneasy because I have experienced gun violence before. They could put over here, I'm happy that more people in our state are being vocal. So this one gives students an opportunity not just to say how they feel about it, but then to go a step further and explain their thinking. A few other ideas, and I didn't do any examples for these, but just so you could see how you could take these and input them into your digital interactive notebooks. And this is great because once you have the templates made, you can just copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste, or you can do what we did and go into that template, slide, edit theme, and just add a template where you already have them. So all you're doing is adding the pages. You're not creating, you're not copying and editing anything. You already have it in the template that you created, and then you can just add it from there. So this one is an interactive poster where they can add images, hyperlink, text. So instead of creating something on a poster board, they would create it on a slide. Sticky note brainstorming. So using the sticky notes and the shapes to get their ideas out. Maybe you are about to go into a Socratic circle and are wanting students to share their thoughts. Maybe you are about to go into some pre-writing, and so you want students to kind of jot down their ideas. She also has this template for a writer's notebook looking at drafting. And notice that this right here can't be moved, but she does have these text boxes that can be moved. She has one for the scientific method and then the engineering design process as well. And again, note that there are certain things that you can type into that you can move and other things that you can't. So this one has a lot of really great ideas. Please note that when I do control copy, if I did want to, if there were things in here that I wanted to take, when I come over here to this, because the background it's locked in, it's an image, it doesn't allow me to take all those pieces that she had. So those colorful boxes, I would have to create those on my own, which is super easy. I can just, go into insert, shapes, and then I can kind of do my own from there. So although these are locked, a lot of this is locked in, it's super simple and easy to create. So that way, again, you can have your own template that's ready to go with the interactive pieces that you like. All right. So I do have one more that I want to show you. So this is a math interactive notebook. I know the last one was math, but there's something specific I wanted to show you in this one. So this one is just for this particular unit. It has their table of contents there, so you'll notice that I didn't have that in mind. It is a matter of preference. I love this right here, I noticed that and I wonder, I started using it in math, but it is such a fantastic little sentence frame, sentence stem to use in social studies classes as they are looking at photos, in science classes as they are starting a lab and they are beginning their investigations. So this I noticed and I wonder is phenomenal to use in any class as you get students into the habit of sharing their thoughts a little more. What I did want to point out here are these kind of little templates because math can be a little hard when you don't have concrete manipulatives, but this is a great alternative. So she uses fruit and she had them already in here, but notice that send back, there we go. But notice that the arrangement was something that wasn't set up on that top one. So be mindful if you are doing some drag and drop things that you have everything set in place. So I love the drag and drop of that. If you are doing drag and drop, the drag and drop does need to be created from this particular screen, the actual slide deck itself. If you do it in the slide editor, it's not going to be movable. So I have this one right here. I wanted to share this one with you so that way you can just copy and paste if you're a math person who wants to use this, is needing some ideas of what this could look like and doesn't want to create all these tiny pieces on your own. I did link this in your note-taking guide as well. So this whole slide is linked there for you, but notice that because she did not, or this person did not put some of these pieces from the theme itself, right? I see this, but nothing else, that students can edit everything. So students could come in and delete the distributive property. They could come in and delete this right here. So if it is something that you are absolutely wanting to be in place for students, make sure that you have locked it in, whether you are doing it from slide, edit theme, or you are setting an image as the background. And I will link a video for that as well. So those are just some of the many activity ideas that you can incorporate into your digital interactive notebook. Now let's get into some considerations, some things to be mindful of before you actually push these out to students and as you are creating these. So keep in mind that it's highly recommended that you create just one unit at a time or do it by day by lesson. Because if you do a full year or a full semester, it's going to be a lot of slides for students to have to sift through. So for organization purposes and as to not overwhelm yourself, because remember, after you push it out, it's pushed out. Keep it to one unit at a time. Think about those movable versus unmovable objects. If it's something that you want students to drag and drop, if it's something that you want students to manipulate and move around, if it's something that you want students to be able to type into, it's going to be best to do it from just the regular slide screen. Whereas if they're objects that you want to be unmovable, untouchable, you can either set the image as a background. And again, I'm sharing a link for that in your note-taking guide, or you can do what I showed you, which is go to slide, edit theme, and place it there. And keep in mind that when you are in that particular one, you can put in a text placeholder. So it's not a text box, it is a text placeholder. And that will allow students to type in into that box. Think about how you'll share out any updates. There have been times where I've shared things out with students or I've created things and like, oh, I need to make some adjustments. I need to edit that. So what will that process look like? In your note-taking guide, I've shared some ways that you can do that. There are a couple different ways. It's really just a matter of preference to grade or not to grade. Some people have this as, something purely for classwork, so they're not grading it. Some people, if they're doing it daily, they have students turn it in at the end of the day or at the end of the week. If it's for the unit, you can have them turn it in at the end of the unit, or you can still go in and look at it even though it's not turned in. So they don't have to turn it in order for you to access it and look at it. And again, I shared a link for that for those of you who just need a refresher on that piece as well in your note-taking guide. And then thinking about having your teacher copy, your master copy, which is going to be your view only, as well as a student copy, which is the one that you will end up pushing out to students. So be sure that before you push it out to students, that you've gone through all your pages, you've checked the links to make sure that they work, you've checked your videos. If you're putting videos in, you've checked the movable versus unmovable objects. And once you get take an hour or so to play around with it to think about, okay, what do you want the layout to look like? It's going to be a breeze. You're going to be like, why didn't I change to this sooner? I really wish I would have. So I hope that there are some things that you were able to take away, some new things, some old things, some considerations that you can think about moving forward. And I can't wait to see what you come up with. So thank you, thank you, thank you for being here, for being open. There is a short little assignment for you all to try out, and you can find that by clicking once this video finishes in the LMS. There's also the assignment instructions in your note-taking guide as well.